Yo guys, welcome to the Zelda fiction. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto was the Mirage Blade Fox? Part 4. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. After Naruto started his laughing fit, everyone became terrified. Even Kurenai and Anko were a little freaked out, though Anko was experiencing pride as well. Sasuke and Sakura decided to head into the exams. Sasuke-kun, a shrill voice called as a blonde Kunoichi jumped onto his back. "Did you miss me, Sasuke-kun? Get off of him, Ino pig." Sakura shouted, "Sasuke-kun is mine." "Yeah right, just go to your lost puppy," Naruto Ino spoke. Yahoo, a gruff voice called, "We're all here." Troublesome, a lazy voice spoke, "Do you have to be so loud?" "Hey, we were where eyes are 2K-kun," a timid Kunoichi asked. "Hey, where is that baka?" Ino asked. "I need to give him a piece of my mind for getting me in trouble with daddy. I'm going to kill that dope." Kiba grumbled. Suddenly the entrance doors burst open with a loud bang. As everyone looked, they saw that no one there, just a long empty hallway. Then it happened. The lights at the very back began to flicker before going off completely. In the darkness, a pair of crimson eyes became visible from afar. It was all that was visible. They were very fox-like. Then the singing began. "Total slaughter, total slaughter. I won't leave a single man alive." The eyes began moving forward toward the entrance, but there were no footsteps. The lights began to flicker off as the eyes came closer. The room began to fill with fear. La-da-da-da-die. Genocide. La-da-da-da-dud. An ocean of blood. The eyes were finally at the door, and still the only part of the stranger visible. The room was full to the top with fear. It only continued to grow. "Let's begin. The killing times." The first foot made its way through. From the shadows, Naruto appeared. He was still under his Genjutsu, his blindfold was off. He gave the room a full view of his fox-like eyes. "Hey guys, what's up?" "Naruto. Naruto, you troublesome blonde," Shikamaru sighed, "you scared us half to death." "Only half?" Naruto asked. "I'll do better next time." "I wasn't scared," Kiba boasted. "Then why are your legs shaking?" Shino asked. "Shut it." "Hey, you guys should keep it down," a newcomer spoke, Yaora's drawing a lot of attention. He looked to Naruto, "Especially you freaked out a lot of people with that intro." It was true. Everyone had their eyes on the rookie 9. Naruto decided to have some fun. Well, the only thing to fear, he eyed them, is fear himself. He felt them grow anxious, so they should be afraid, they should be very afraid. Naruto began reapplying his blindfold when Ino opened her mouth. "Baka, why are you wearing a blindfold?" she asked. "It makes you look like a bigger baka, and it clashes with that orange monstrosity. You just don't understand that being a ninja isn't about fashion or looking good," Naruto spoke. "Plus a blindfold makes everything look impressive. Just look at that Rain ninja over there." Everyone turned to the Genin squad from Rain. There was one with both eyes covered. It wasn't an exact blindfold, but it proved the point. The Rain ninja gave a simple nod and thumbs up. Someone understood. "Well, maybe I could be of service to you all," Kabuto offered. "I have information from my previous times here." "Is this your second time, Kabuto-san?" Sakura asked. "No, it's my 7th," he admitted. "Man, you must really suck," Kiba taunted. "Or these exams are extremely difficult," Shikamaru stated. Kabuto Sasuke called. "Do you have information on individuals?" "Yes, who would you like?" "Are of the desert, Rock Lee." He paused. "And Naruto Uzumaki." "You know their names," he stated. "That's no fun." He drew 3 cards and began to read the first. Rock Lee. A Taijutsu expert with no ninjutsu or Genjutsu. His teammates are Tenten and Niji Hyuga. 25 D ranks. 21 C ranks. 1 B rank. That's pretty impressive. Are of the desert. His skill is unknown, and his teammates are his siblings Temari and Kankuro. 0 D ranks. 9 C ranks. 8 B ranks. 14 A ranks. The scariest part is Kabuto spoke. He's never even been scratched on a single mission. Naruto Uzumaki, a Genjutsu and Kenjutsu user. His teammates are Sakura Haruno and Sasuke Uchiha. aka the Mirage. Mirage Blade. The hero of Wave. Fear. 84 D ranks. 16 C ranks. 2 B ranks. 1 A rank. There is no way that baka did all those missions, Sakura screeched. "You must have mixed them up with Sasuke-kun's stats. Actually, these are missions he's taken with his girlfriends." "That's right, plural." He paused and watched the men's reaction. The Ice Queens of Konoha. He managed to fight off Zabuza, the demon in the mist, and turn him into a leaf ninja. And still hope and save a village, getting a bridge names after him after killing near 200 bandits. And he was the one people believed was the dope. Many eyes were now on Naruto. This was like a fear buffet for him. However, some of that information is classified. I'll have to watch this guy. "Hello, Naruto-kun," Temari greeted. "Are you going to let me touch those whiskers yet?" "Hello, Temari-chan," Naruto returned the greeting. "And no, still for my Heims only." He noticed off to the side that Kabuto made a comment on the sound Genin. That was foolish, insulting an unknown enemy. Alright maggots, take a seat. Hibiki shouted. It's time for the first test to begin. After explaining the rules, which I will not do, they began. It was simple, if you looked underneath the underneath. You have to get the answers without getting caught. The only way to do that was to cheat. Unless you're Naruto. Proctor-san, Naruto called, can I have the answers? Everyone paused in their actions. They couldn't believe that someone would actually ask for the answers during a test. Yet here was Naruto, doing that very thing. Down in lounge. Kakashi was banging his head on the wall in embarrassment and anger. How could one of his students do that to him? The answer was actually pretty simple. It was Naruto Uzumaki. Anko was happily laughing her head off. Kurenai had to admit it was a little humiliating, but worth it to see the look on everyone's face. Plus, it was a technique no one had ever tried before. Did he really think Hibiki would just give him the answers? Asuma asked. Probably, Kurenai answered. Exam room. Sure, he said, handing him the answers. All Jounin face faulted, minus Anko, who just rolled on the ground laughing. Hibiki was impressed. Naruto had to either be the bravest or craziest genin he'd ever met. May I have the answers as well? Shino asked. Hibiki was tempted to give him the answers, but he had a reputation to keep. No, Hibiki stated. Please, Shino tried. No. Why did he give you the answers? Baka Sakura asked. He should have give them to Sasuke-kun, not that he needs them. She went on ranting about how great Sasuke was. It was a nightmare. Does she ever shut up about the Uchiha? Hibiki asked. Not unless you threaten her, Naruto asked. Then you may have a good 1 minute. I'll give you the answers if you shut her up, Hibiki offered Shino. Naruto, Shino whispered, be quiet, or my friend's eye, and will eat you. He allowed his insect to crawl around in a dramatic fashion for extra effect. They all believed he would. I believed he would. Not that he'd get much off her, many thought there is no meat on her bones. But the answers, Naruto quickly blew through the test, minus the 10th answer. Not that it matters, he thought. He had already figured out the meaning of the test. Alright, are you all ready for the final question? Hibiki asked. The 10th question was a dangerous one. If they decided not to take it, then they were disqualified. If they did take it and failed, then they wouldn't be able to be promoted. Ever. The genin were already leaving the room. This guy is practically spoon feeding me. The fear of failure was intoxicating, but it's still not enough. It's nowhere near enough. For those who are still here, Hibiki spoke, you pass. As he spoke those words, a black cloth broke through the window. It spread out to reveal that it was a sign. It read. The second proctor. The sexy and taken Anko Mitarashi. I'm the proctor for the second exam, she spoke. Anko Mitarashi. Anko. Hibiki sighed. You're early again. You let so many though this year, Hibiki. Anko pointed out. Are you getting soft in your old age? No, but your little friend there, he pointed to Naruto, is a wild shot. I know, I'm so proud, she cheered. Hi, Naruto. Hi, Nari-chan, she greeted as she moved to sit in his lap. I saw your intro, it was amazing. Thank you, he spoke. I aim to please. Oh, you do, Nari-chan, she purred. You do. Before you to begin something you probably won't stop. It was true, they wouldn't. You need to remember you are the second proctor. Right, she had forgotten. I want you all to follow me to the next exam spot. We are going to cut the remaining teams in half. Naruto raised his hand to ask a question. Yes, Naruto, you will be allowed to literally cut people in half. He dropped his hand. No, I'm not going anywhere with you, Sakura screeched, not after what you put me and Sasuke-kun through. Naruto. Anko spoke. If you would. Everyone, this room has been laced with exploding tags, Naruto spoke. If the blast doesn't kill you, the collapsing building will. Bye. Both he and Anko went up in smoke. Everyone looked and saw that the room was indeed laced with explosive tags. Many were wondering the same thing. How did we miss him putting those up? They'll never know, and the explosives were set to go off at any second. Hibiki was the first out the window. He had no doubt in his mind that those explosives were real. The genin followed soon after. 5, 4, 3, boom. Oh god, he's trying to kill us. A random genin shouted. All eyes turned to Naruto. Even Anko had to take a look at the blonde. Naruto, she started. Those explosives were real. Yep, he answered. People could have died. Unfortunately they didn't, he spoke, but now they'll fear me. You make me so proud. Welcome everyone, Anko shouted, to the forest of death. It doesn't seem all that scary, Kiba shouted. As fast as lightning a kunai sailed past his face. The blade just lightly cut into his flesh, drawing a drop of blood. Anko was right behind him with a kunai at his neck. It's the hot-headed ones like you that end up splattered on the ground, Anko spoke. Usually she would lick the blood up, but decided against it. Don't want Naruto killing the genin out of jealousy, yet. She felt a presence behind her. It was giving off subtle killing intent. Hello, I believe this is yours. It was a grass ninja holding Anko's kunai with an elongated tongue. Thanks, but you shouldn't be behind me, Anko stated with a hard smile. My boyfriend could get the wrong idea with the killing intent and kill you. Everyone saw the blonde behind the grass ninja. Gone was the mischievous smile. It was replaced with a hard mask. If his eyes were visible, many were sure that they were cold as ice. "Take her warning," Naruto ordered. The grass ninja gave a predatory smile before backing away. "That was unnecessary, Naruto-chan." Anko spoke. "I can take care of myself." Naruto didn't speak. He never took his blindfolded eyes off of the grass ninja. Anko knew to be on the guard. "Hey, I'm still here," Kiba spoke. But Anko spoke. "You can hand these out." She handed him a stack of papers. "These are permission slips so that if you die we don't get blamed." "What are we doing this time?" someone asked. "The task is simple. Each team will be given a scroll." She held one that read heaven and one that read earth. "Your job is to retrieve the opposite scroll from the other team by any means necessary." She let that one hang in the air. "You have 5 days to do so and make it to the tower in the center." "What about food?" Chaoji asked. "There are plenty of plants and wildlife in the forest," Anko assured. "Just don't let them eat you first. If that becomes too difficult you could eat one of your teammates." Naruto offered. "The one that is the least useful will be helpful by being dinner." What scared many genin was that Chaoji seemed to actually be thinking. His eyes were shifting back and forth between Ino and Shikamaru. He began drooling at the prospect of a new flavor. "Can we begin?" Ino asked. "Chaoji is scaring me." The teams were each given a scroll. They were each designated toward a gate. "The word of advice," Anko spoke. "Just don't die." The test began. Team 7 were moving through the forest at an even pace before coming to a stop. Once they covered enough distance they came to a stop. "Okay, we need a plan," Naruto stated. "I think we." "Who put you in charge?" Baka Sakura asked. Fine, Naruto sighed. "Do either of you have a plan?" "I thought so," Naruto spoke. "We should." He never got to finish his plan as he felt a large spike in chakra. There was only enough time to turn his head before he was hit. He was blasted away by a powerful wind jutsu. It carried him a great distance away. What hit me?" Naruto asked. "Hiss." Naruto turned to the sound. He was greeted by the largest snake he had ever seen. It stared him down with a predatory look. "Are you one of Anko's summons?" Naruto asked. The snake simply shook his head. "Are you going to eat me?" The snake didn't answer. It simply opened its mouth and swallowed Naruto whole. As the snake laid to digest the blonde, it felt strange. Soon pain erupted from its stomach as Naruto carved away at its innards. It had no choice but to spit Naruto out. The two looked at each other. Naruto shivered. He had just been eaten. He gathered himself as the snake made a second attempt. Naruto jumped to the side and released his henge while taking a stance. He had never fought anything this big, but he has fought countless snakes. After all, he wasn't going to be anyone's supper. Jumping into the air, he brought his sword, still in sheath, down onto the snake's skull. The serpent fell unconscious under the blow. "Be glad one of my Heims is a snake summoner," Naruto stated. "Otherwise I would have killed you." Now that the snake was unconscious, he could find his team. Relaxing, he spread his sensor meter a good distance before he found them. They were in the middle of battle with a powerful opponent. And losing. "I need to get to them and fast." Without thinking, he jumped onto the unconscious snake. "Giddy up, snake." The snake laid there. "Giddy up, come on snake, giddy up." The snake continued to lie there. Naruto went behind the snake, pulled his sword back. "When I say giddy up, I mean giddy up." He swung it at the snake. The impact to the snake was great. It was enough to wake the snake up and send it into a panic. This caused the snake to start slithering away at incredible speed. Without Naruto. "Whoa snake, whoa," he ran after the serpent. The fight. Sasuke was at his limit. The grass ninja was just toying with him. Even with his Sharingan he could barely keep up. Sakura was just switching between cheering Sasuke on and screaming in terror. "Whoa snake, whoa," he heard a familiar voice speak, drew everyone's attention. "Come on, whoa." It was a ridiculous sight. When I say whoa, there was a loud impacting sound. I mean whoa. The snake couldn't take much more of this. As Naruto stepped into the area, he was greeted with stares of disbelief. "What?" he asked innocently. "Thobe," Sasuke called. "Get out of here," he shouted. "This opponent is way out of our league." "You can take that, freak Sasuke-kun," Sakura cheered, though she went completely ignored. "This is what you want, right?" Sasuke held out their scroll. "Just take it and leave us." "Sasuke, you fool." Naruto shouted. "If the enemy is as strong as you say, then what's to stop him from killing you anyway?" He eyed the grass ninja. "Isn't that right, Orochimaru?" "You're so clever, Naruto-kun," the enemy complimented. "What gave me away?" "There were only 2 snake summoners," Naruto answered, "and I'm currently dating the other." "You're really dating Anko?" Orochimaru asked, "And they call me the cradle robber." "I became legal when I put on this headband," Naruto stated. "Now, what are you doing here?" "Oh, I'm just here for Sasuke-kun." Orochimaru answered. "Now let's begin, shall we?" "Let's. I can make you pay for hurting my Heim." Naruto drew his sword and took a stance. He dropped his weights and removed his blindfold as prepared for battle. Even if he were to use his Shin no Ippo. Stage 3, there was no guarantee he could win. He didn't have enough fear saved up. He had little to no control over the technique and just ran wild against whoever was in his way. The only reason he regained control was because of Anko, his Harem. He only beat Zabuza with it because the former Mist Nin was already tired. Orochimaru was one of the Sannin for a reason and looked full of energy. "So you want a sword match, huh?" Orochimaru mused. "Fine." The snake Sannin began to regurgitate something, a sword. Now Naruto had a chance. Orochimaru wasn't a Sannin for his sword skills. However, Naruto still needed to be careful. Orochimaru had superior speed, strength and much more experience. Naruto decided to make the first move. He jumped toward a free branch next to Orochimaru. Looking the snake Sannin in the eye, he used Shin no Ippo, stage 1. The technique caught Orochimaru off guard long enough for Naruto to use another Genjutsu. Demonic illusion, double false surroundings. He hoped that Orochimaru didn't notice him start using Genjutsu. While he had the opportunity, he dashed toward the Sannin. Raising his sword, he made to decapitate the Rouge. His blade was blocked by the one Orochimaru was holding. So he broke free. He didn't think it would hold all that well anyway. Now they were in a power struggle. Unfortunately for Naruto, Orochimaru was winning. Then it caught his attention. "That sword," Naruto whispered. He jumped back onto another tree. It was the sword of Kusanagi. A blade that was said to be indestructible and capable of cutting through anything with enough force. It also came with a bunch of other tricks. "So you know of this blade?" Orochimaru asked him. "Do you still want to try yours against it?" Like he had a choice. The Sannin jumped toward Naruto, blade extended. While the Sannin was in midair, he made his move. "Now invert." With Orochimaru's vision and balance distorted, he attempted a one-arm diagonal slash. Orochimaru tried to block, but you know how that goes. The blade made contact, and Naruto was rewarded with the enemy's blood. As they fell, Naruto landed on a tree. Orochimaru attempted the same but fell through his. It was the illusion Naruto had placed in the beginning of the fight. The Sannin tried to right himself, but Naruto would have none of that. Everything the snake Sannin tried to grab was just an illusion. He landed on the ground painfully. Naruto jumped and landed on the other side of the clearing. Sasuke and Sakura followed behind after. "Oh, how were you able to beat one of the Sannin?" Sasuke asked. "You fool," Naruto shouted. "He's not beaten, he's not even hurt." "You are very perceptive," Naruto Orochimaru complimented, "and your skills are just as good." "Well, Sasuke-kun is better," Sakura howled. "Be silent, you pink thing," Orochimaru ordered. "If you hate Sakura, then maybe you aren't all bad," Naruto stated. "Sasuke, I need you to back me up here." "Aka," Sakura shouted. "You should be backing Sasuke up." "I'm going to kill her," Orochimaru stated. While Orochimaru was distracted by Sakura, Naruto decided to make his move. Dance of the Crescent Moon. Two Narutos made their way to Orochimaru. The snake Sannin blocked the first blade with his own, and with a flick of his wrist he impaled him. He grabbed the second Naruto by the arm and tossed him head first into the Naruto that was attaching from behind. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. It was a direct hit, however Orochimaru simply walked out of the flames. He eyed Sasuke with a disturbing look. The snake Sannin stretched his neck to inhuman lengths toward the Uchiha. He bit the Uchiha, leaving a mark on his neck. This caused him to scream in pain. "Sasuke-kun," Sakura cried as running to his side. "What did you do to him?" "I just gave him a little gift," he answered. "It will also keep him from interfering with my fight with Naruto-kun." "Let's begin," Naruto stated. "Let's," he agreed. "I wish to see what the one who believes himself to be fear can do." Naruto attempted a forward thrust. The Sannin merely stepped to the side. Leveling his sword, Orochimaru made for a side slash. Naruto raised his sword to block, but the blow was too heavy and knocked him down. As he picked himself up, he saw Orochimaru. The snake Sannin was standing over him like a predator. "I believe I smell fear from you, Naruto," Orochimaru taunted. With great force, Naruto was back slapped across the clearing, striking shadow snakes. Several snakes flew out to the still airborne Naruto. They latched their fangs into his and pulled him back. Naruto was greeted to Orochimaru's sword pointed to his face. Naruto pulled his sword arm up and cut through the snakes binding him. He then delivered a chakra-infused kick to the snake Sannin's stomach. Instead of being pushed back like Naruto had hoped, Orochimaru merely grunted. Grabbing Naruto by the back of his head, he placed the sword to his neck. Giving a chakra-infused elbow to the stomach, he freed himself. He jumped back a few feet to make some distance. Shadow Clone Jutsu. He summoned 5, and they each made a dash for Orochimaru following the original. The snake Sannin dispatched them easily. The snake Sannin delivered a kick to Naruto, bringing him to his knees. He was forced to drop his sword from the pain. He pointed the Kusanagi at Naruto. The blonde fell back in fear. What he did next would shame him. He ran. He didn't know where he was. He just knew that he was tired and scared. He felt a familiar pulling sensation in the back of his mind. "You little twerp," a familiar voice growled. "How dare you?" I'm sorry, Naruto whispered, ashamed. I know I shouldn't have ran. You're damn right you shouldn't have, QB agreed, but that isn't what has me so angry. It isn't, he asked the fox. Then what does? You were afraid, the fox shouted. You felt fear, my container felt fear, from a snake. I was losing a life and death battle. It wouldn't be the first time, QB pointed out, and you didn't use any of the techniques I taught you. I didn't have enough fear for the shin. I'm not talking about that, QB spoke. You haven't used any Genjutsu I taught you but that one. You haven't even used my Kenjutsu since Wave, and you only used the basics. I can't control the illusions, Naruto stated, and your sword style is for killing and maiming. You aren't supposed to control the illusion, and what do you think a sword is for? But. What are you afraid of? The fox asked. You mouthed "of" to me, the QB, the fox stated. You taunted the demon of the mist, you even stared down the Ichibi container, so I know you don't fear death. The Ichibi container? You mean Gaara? Naruto asked. Don't change the subject, the fox growled. What are you afraid of? I'm afraid of myself. Naruto shouted. I'm afraid of what I can do. It became a whisper of what I will do. I see, the fox mused. You fear your control over yourself. What if I hurt my Heims? He asked. I wouldn't be able to live with myself. The QB wanted to be angry at the brat but couldn't. Even the giant fox had a heart when it came to this matter. But as the container of QB, there could be no weakness. Brat, I will no longer help you, the fox stated. Until you find your resolve, you are on your own. With nothing more to say, the fox ejected Naruto from his own mind. I'll go find my team, he thought, if they're still alive. Naruto spread his sensor radar as far as he could. He found Orochimaru first. The snake Sannin wasn't with his team. He was with Anko, his Heim. It took less than a second for Naruto to decide his next action. He ran toward the direction of the two snake users. Naruto may be afraid, but it wasn't of death. He would happily die for any of his Heims. He was afraid he wouldn't make it in time. Anko? Anko was worse for wear. She was completely exhausted and had used nearly all of her chakra. She had enough left for just one jutsu. Goodbye girls, Iruka, Naruto. Twin snake mutual death. I'm sure you don't want to waste your life like that, Orochimaru stated. How do you think your dear Naruto-kun would feel? That question was enough to make her cancel the suicide jutsu. What have you done with Naruto-kun? Anko asked in fear. Nothing too bad, just a friendly spar, he stated. To my disappointment, he ran away. Well, now I'm back, a new voice spoke. Naruto-kun, Anko shouted. Get out of here. Well, Naruto-kun, Orochimaru spoke. Are you going to give me a better fight this time? Naruto said nothing. There was nothing he could say. He took his usual stance. They moved simultaneously, and their blades met. It was another power struggle as they fell from the treetops. They landed like cats, never breaking their struggle. Naruto pushed Orochimaru back. The snake Sannin made a side slash at Naruto's legs. The blonde jumped and attempted a straight slash down. Orochimaru backstepped, avoiding the blade. The Kusanagi took the blow, being pushed into the ground. Using his sword as a stand, Naruto delivered a kick to Orochimaru's face. Orochimaru backstepped even further. Very good, Naruto, Orochimaru complimented. What gave you such a new flair? Naruto stayed silent, not talking. Well then, show me more. The snake Sannin made for a one-handed thrust. Naruto sidestepped and swung at his exposed body. The blade made contact. Before Naruto could feel any satisfaction, pain erupted from his back. It was only because of his tolerance that he was able to stand. The Orochimaru before him dissolved into a puddle of mud. Another stood behind him. Naruto, Anko screamed. She dived down to help the blonde. Drawing her kunai, she began to recklessly slash away at the Sannin. With no chakra or focus, her movements were slow and sloppy. Orochimaru simply dodged each one, as if it were child's play. I'm not interested in you, Anko, Orochimaru spoke. The snake Sannin raised his hands and formed a seal. It was a seal she was all too familiar with. It was the one she feared most. She fell to the ground, screaming in pain. Orochimaru had activated the curse seal on her. Naruto ran to her side. He completely ignored the snake Sannin, all he cared for was his Heim. Anko, he cried, get up. Oh, so she was your motivation, Orochimaru stated. No wonder you fought so hard. Stop it, Naruto shouted. I'm your opponent. Sorry, Naruto, he falsely apologized, but no can do. Naruto glared at the snake. He activated the fox glare but nothing happened. He tried over and over again. Not gonna happen. What? Why? You need to give in. Never. Naruto dashed toward the Sannin, but was simply backhanded. I will deal with you when I'm done with her, he stated, unless you show me what you used at the bridge. Do you hear that? QB asked. He is going to kill your mate, then you. I know. Then give in. But. Do you want to be alone again? QB asked. Do you want one of your Heims to die in front of you? No. Then give in. Alright. 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 Orochimaru looked toward the mumbling blonde. He was greeted with a pair of fox-like eyes glaring at him. It shocked him, but he knew enough not to look directly at them. That wouldn't stop it. The forest went black. Naruto unleashed more killer intent and fear than should have been possible. It filled the forest to the point that it stopped other genins in their task. Everywhere Orochimaru looked he was greeted with giant fox-like eyes staring at him from all directions. In the center Naruto was staring at him. It was unnerving, even to the snake Sannin. What have I gotten myself into? More than you could possibly imagine. With his concentration lost, Anko was freed. Naruto, she weakly mumbled before falling unconscious. 1 minute Naruto was staring at Orochimaru with untold hatred. The next he was behind the Sannin with fresh blood on his sword. Because on the shock, Orochimaru barely noticed the gash on his shoulder. Or the fact that Naruto was holding his severed sword hand. You shouldn't have harmed my Haim, Naruto stated. You would have lived. Orochimaru couldn't believe Naruto had just severed his hand. A genin, even if a gifted one, had harmed him, a Sannin. How did? Again Naruto vanished and another slash appeared. Longer Naruto needed to pay for hurting Anko in the past. Orochimaru was in trouble. He had only one hand, and he was under assault from an unfamiliar attack. He needed to end this. As much fun as this has been, I need to go, Orochimaru stated. Do you think you can just leave that easily? Naruto asked. Just like that? Of course I can, Orochimaru stated with confidence with just 6 little words. Well, you had better say them fast, Naruto stated, charging Orochimaru. The Sannin simply smirked. You're so like your mother. That stopped Naruto. It also stopped the Genjutsu that had filled the whole area. His mother? What would Orochimaru know about his mother? Even the old man, the Hokage, didn't know anything. Before Naruto could open his mouth, Orochimaru sunk into the ground. Naruto was at a loss. He wanted to go after the Sannin, but he knew he couldn't. He wouldn't leave his Haim in a vulnerable state. After sealing the Kusanagi, he gently shook her awake. Naruto, Anko weakly called, I'm a little thirsty. He knew what that meant. Walking to Anko, he uncovered his neck. Anko bit down and drank the blood greedily. Naruto wondered if healing blood was a blessing or a curse. Even as Anko moaned in ecstasy, he couldn't decide. Naruto, what happened? She asked after drinking his thirst. Orochimaru got away, Naruto stated. I'm sorry, I had to use. He couldn't finish. He had broken his promise to Anko. It seemed she understood. You used the fox, huh? Anko asked. So what? This sent Naruto through a loop. I promised that I wouldn't. I made promise not to use it unless unnecessary. She spoke. I say an S-rank ninja definitely counts as necessary, don't you think? Naruto couldn't be happier. Anko wasn't upset that he broke a promise to her. In fact, she seems to have approved of his actions. It was ruined by a vile spike in chakra that just happened to be in the area of his teammates. Darn it. Though she spoke, I can take care of myself from here. She assured you, on the other hand, have an exam to finish. Naruto felt the area. There were Anbu on their way to the spot. Since he felt Yugao's chakra with him, he didn't mind leaving. Okay, with a kiss he was off. Snake. The summons needed a break. It had been summoned by its master for a simple task. Eat a child. What does it get? Knocked unconscious. Knocked awake to be a ride, and knocked unconscious when it wouldn't. Suddenly something fell on its head. Hey, a familiar voice called. I know we got off on the wrong foot, belly, but the snake wasn't listening. Nope, it was getting away from that insane blonde human. Unfortunately, Naruto was still on its head. Whoa, snake. Team 7. Sasuke felt great. He had power, it was coming from the mark on his neck. He had been given power worthy of an Uchiha, worthy of his greatness. And he had the first prey to try it on. He even had an audience to use it in front of. There was Team 9 and 10 as well as Sakura. Before he could, a large snake burst into the clearing. It was thrashing around, as if trying to shake something off. That something was a person. Naruto Uzumaki. Whoa, snake, whoa, a familiar voice drew everyone's attention. Come on, whoa, it was a ridiculous sight. When I say whoa, there was a loud impacting sound, I mean whoa. Everyone's sweat dropped as they saw Naruto ride in on a snake before smashing it over the head with a sword sheath. The snake had enough, it dispelled. As the blonde stood back up and dusted himself off, he noticed his surrounding. What? He asked innocently. Yosh. Lee shouted. That was a wonderful display of youth. Thanks, Lee. Naruto spoke. What happened to you? I was defending Sakura-san, he answered. It seems I must increase my flames of youth. Well, Lee, you did good, Naruto spoke, reaching into his jacket. Here's a turtle. It was a real turtle. He handed it to Lee. Thank you, Naruto. Lee spoke through tears. I will forever tree. We were in the middle of something. One of the sound nin spoke, cutting Lee off. If you don't mind leaving. Sorry, Naruto spoke. As much as I don't like them, he looked at them, and I really don't like them, he added. I need them to pass. Sakura shouted, don't get in Sasuke-kun's way. It finally clicked to Team 10 who this stranger was. Naruto had only showed this form to Team 7 and 9. Troublesome. That's Naruto? Ino asked. Why isn't he? I'm usually under a henge when you see me, Naruto answered. Enough of this, Sasuke shouted. I have a fight going on. He looked toward Naruto. In fact, Naruto, I'll test my new power on you first. Charging forward, the Uchiha attempted to end the fight quickly. He was met with the end of Naruto's sheath to his stomach. The pain brought Sasuke to his knees. He gave the blonde his most hatred-filled glare. Sasuke-kun, Sakura and Ino shouted. You're in for it now, Baka. Ino spoke. You attacked an ally, that's against the law. If you would have paid attention, Ino pig. Naruto snapped. You would have saw him attack me first. Well, it's still one down. The enemy spoke. Now you. They attack Naruto as one. He calmly took his stance. Dance of the poisoned snake. Naruto struck them with great speed and precision. They fell to the ground holding various parts of their body in pain. It was an attack he had invented himself. It was a quick attack that struck the enemy or enemies deep. The wound wasn't lethal, but if left unattended the wound would bleed out. It was born from the idea of a poisoned snake strike being feeble but deadly. If you don't get attention for that, you will die. Naruto warned. It won't be fast, so you have time, but you will just bleed to death if left unattended. All of the Konoha teams were shocked at Naruto, especially Team 10. This wasn't the blonde idiot I knew, this was a shinobi. The killer. Fine, the assumed leader spoke. We leave. Leave your scroll, Naruto ordered. They did. Luckily for Naruto, it was the one they needed. Hey you, Baka. Ino shouted. I want answers, so start. Ino, Naruto spoke. I have had enough of you and I could kill you now without any repercussion. Ino was frozen with fear. It was true, Naruto could kill her. During these exams death wasn't uncommon, it was actually expected. She looked around, it was obvious she would get no help. Uchiha, Haruno. Naruto called. Let's go. Wait, you hurt. Sakura didn't get to finish. Naruto grabbed by the neck and raised her off the ground. He gave her a hate-filled glare. Sakura, I am tired of your fangirl ways, he growled. Since this team formed you have been useless. It was true. If I have to keep dealing with you, then I'll kill you myself, understand? Why yes, she choked out, terrified. Let's go. Team 7 had arrived to the tower a few days earlier. They were greeted by Iruka, who had given a lecture. Afterwards Naruto had informed him and the Hokage of their encounter with Orochimaru. It was supposed to be kept secret, so naturally half of the village would know of it by the end of the day. Naruto had already reapplied his henge and left his team for better company. Now they were getting ready for the next phase. I'm sorry to tell you all this, but the Hokage spoke but was cut off. Maybe I, cough, should do, cough, it hate spoke. I am the, cough, proctor for this exam, cough. Fine. Alright, cough, there are two, cough, many of you hate spoke, so we are, cough, going to have a, cough, preliminary match. Does anyone want to quit now? Kabuto was the only one who did alright. Everyone but the one fighting go to the balcony. Sasuke vs Yoroi. You should give up. Sasuke spoke. You can't win against an Uchiha. We'll see about that. Yoroi stated. Yoroi made the first move. His hands began to glow with chakra. He charged the Uchiha and grabbed him. It took a while, but Sasuke found out what he was doing. My chakra, he groaned. That's right. The Uchiha kicked Yoroi off as hard as he could. He drew a kunai and took a stance. A stance that angered Naruto. Dance of the poisoned snake. The blow to Yoroi was fast and ruthless. That attack wasn't meant to be lethal unless you let it bleed out, Sasuke spoke, but this is fire style. Fireball jutsu. The genin was burnt to ashes. Winner, Sasuke. Uchiha hate spoke. As Sasuke made his way to the balcony, he was stopped. Naruto stood in front of him with barely contained rage. Team Naruto growled. You had no right. What are you going on about, dope? Sasuke asked with a smirk. Naruto was only angered further. He grabbed the Uchiha by the neck and lifted him off the ground. Naruto, unhand Sasuke, Kakashi ordered. Baka, you had a glare from Naruto. Shut her up. Naruto, the Hokage called. Please explain yourself. That technique Sasuke just half-assed was mine. Naruto spoke. I created it myself. Naruto, you shouldn't make up lies. Kakashi spoke. I can vouch for him. Anko spoke. He based it off the style of the poisonous snakes. It's fast and seems easy to ignore, but given time you die from blood loss like poison. You should feel honored. Sasuke spoke with arrogance. I found the attack to be worthy, so I made it my own. Naruto increased the pressure on his hold. Naruto stopped. The Hokage spoke. I'm sure you don't need to kill him. Fine, Naruto mumbled, releasing Sasuke, but I'll get even my way. That's fine. Here's an assured, but not now. Come on, Sasuke. Kakashi called. We need to deal with that little problem you have. Shino vs Aku. Kanon. Shino wins. Tenkuro vs Stretchy Guy. Kanon. Tenkuro wins. Sakura vs Ino. Kanon. Tide was an awful fight. Temari vs Tenten. Kanon. Temari wins. How was that, Naruto-kun? Temari asked. Am I one of your Heims yet? That was brutal. Naruto spoke. And no. Temari simply pouted before walking away. She stopped and looked directly at Naruto. Mark my words, she stated. I will rub those whiskers. Nari-chan, Anko called in a sickeningly sweet voice, is there something you want to tell me? Maybe about that sand girl. THBehemoth, he spoke, there is nothing between us. But she cheered, I was worried 4 women weren't enough for you. Poor Kankuro and Kiba shouted. The Hokage and Kankuro experienced a terrible case, nose bleeding. Kakashi, who just returned, was having a perverted giggle attack. Hayate and Asuma sent unnoticed glares to the blonde. Kiba was shaking in untold rage. You're dating the proctor, my sister and 2 others, Kiba shouted, if I fight you then you're dead. Shikamaru vs Kin. Canon. Shikamaru wins. Naruto vs Kiba. Yes, Kiba shouted, now we can teach this dope a lesson. But I don't want to learn now, Naruto stated. Wah, shut up and listen, Kiba shouted. I'm all ear using henge. Naruto created several large ears in various places of his body. That's gross. You just don't understand the power of henge, Naruto spoke, which is surprising since your sensei is a Genjutsu specialist. Forget Genjutsu, Kiba shouted. Naruto Anko called, why not show him how well your henge is? Gladly. Akimaru ran toward Naruto and bit him. Although Akimaru was a small dog, he had powerful bite. It didn't help that there was chakra mixed in his teeth. Good thing Naruto had a high pain tolerance. Ah, heal, Naruto shouted as he jumped around on one leg, how would you like a case of 7-year itch bone breath? Naruto hinged into a man-sized orange flea, you'll free the flea. He began chasing Akimaru across the arena. It was actually pretty funny and disgusting at the same time. It lasted until Kiba threw a powder substance into his face. Whatever it was, it caused a burning sensation to Naruto's face. What was that? Naruto asked in his human form. Flea powder, Kiba answered, when you live with dogs you learn to keep prepared. It was true, now come on, I'll show you why I'm top dog around here. You know, Naruto spoke, tightening his blindfold, I've always been a cool cat. He hinged into a man-sized orange tomcat, but baby, look at me, ow. The cat ran toward Kiba. The feline delivered scratch after scratch at Kiba, who was barely able to dodge. Kiba knew he was in trouble. He needed some space. Akimaru, he called. The dogs ran behind that cat, Naruto, and did something insane. He bit Naruto's tail with a chakra-infused bite. This caused Naruto to jump straight to the ceiling in pain. It didn't help his image that Akimaru was barking at him while running in circles. Like a cat and dog. Now everyone was laughing at him. He began to shake in rage. Naruto didn't like to be laughed at. So he undid his blindfold. An unnatural chill silenced all of the laughing. The walls all became black and seemed to close in on everyone in the room. From the unnatural darkness, an untold number of giant glowing fox-like eyes glared. The henge he was wearing hadn't been undone but altered. Now he was in his half-man half-QP form. The same one he had taken on the bridge right before slaughtering the bandits. His eyes glared into Kiba and Akimaru with great rage. He gave a mighty roar and with great speed he stood before the two. Using one tail he grabbed Akimaru and began squeezing. 5 others latched onto Kiba. 1 on each limb and 1 on his neck. The tails on Kiba's limbs began pulling in opposite directions. The one on his neck pulled as well as squeezed. Who's laughing now? He growled, who's laughing now? Naruto Kurenai called, stop this instant. Naruto released both Kiba and Akimaru, who were struggling to breath. He also undid the illusion he had on the area and himself. He couldn't meet Kurenai's gaze. For him, disappointing any of his Heim was too great a shame. It didn't help that he had put his blindfold back on. Oh, I'm not mad at you, she assured, but how will Hana feel if you hurt Kiba too badly? Sensei. Kiba couldn't believe what he was hearing, you're one of them too, aren't you? That's why you always smell like foxes, you're dating Naruto as well. Well, she didn't like the gazes she was getting. Naruto finished the match, she couldn't meet the gaze Hinata was giving her. I will not lose to this dope, Kiba shouted, he actually thinks he's worthy of my sister, he continued, I am tired of them keeping the clan up all night. When he visits her, this brought out some blushes and nosebleeds, and mom only encourages it so she can get some grand pups. Kiba Ino called, check your kunai pouch. What, why? If you want the baka to really suffer, she stated, show him what's in it. Kiba did want him to hurt. When he reached into his pocket he pulled out a few pictures. As he examined them he couldn't help but smirk. These would give him what he wanted, with interest. Hey, Baka Ino called, you should take a look at them as well. Kiba tossed the pictures into the air and let them scatter. Everyone saw the pictures. Kiba Kurenai growled, you fool. Naruto-kun. As Naruto examined them he felt a cold hand grab his heart. On each picture was a different one of his Heims. They each were with different man. Enko with Iruka. Asuma and Kurenai. Yugao and Hayate. Well, dope, Kiba spoke anything to say. Everyone watched as the blonde calmly walked towards Kiba. Naruto delivered a devastating punch to Kiba's face. The blow most obviously broke his nose, but that wasn't all. The force behind it sent Kiba sailing into the wall across the arena. On impact Kiba became lodged into the wall and created a crater. Naruto wasn't done. The blonde began to deliver punch after punch to Kiba's face. Each one digging Kiba further into the wall. Each one drawing more and more blood from the dog user. Kiba was beginning to fall unconscious. Naruto wasn't going to have that. He punched Kiba in the gut. The blow forced him awake for the continued punishment. It also caused him to double over and spit out both blood and vomit. He weakly looked at Naruto and regretted it. What he saw wasn't the blonde he ridiculed. What he saw was a pair of crimson-red eyes that made him afraid. Naruto glared into Kiba's eyes with such intensity that he nearly fainted again. As Kiba stared, he caught a glimpse of Naruto's fox glare technique. Kiba gave a horrible scream. What Naruto showed him was so full of his anger that it was maddening. Naruto delivered one final punch to Kiba, silencing him. This time he could fall unconscious. No one could believe what they saw, especially coming from Naruto. That was one of the most savage beating they had seen. It wasn't even a real fight or even just a beating. It was punishment. Naruto Anko called. Is it true? He asked them. They wanted to say no. But they couldn't lie, not to Naruto. Yes, Anko and Kurenai answered. He looked at the cat-masked Anbu. She nodded her head. Why didn't you tell me? He asked. Why did you lead me on? Don't feel bad, Asuma spoke. You can at least say you went all the way with the Ice Queens, he continued, and on the first date on the same night. You chose him over me? He asked Kurenai. She wouldn't meet his blindfolded gaze. Well, cough, you are just, cough, a kid Hate spoke. And you're half dead, Naruto stated, getting a glare from Hate. What's your point? Listen, you little, Hate just barely stopped himself. Say it, Naruto ordered. I want you to say it. Hate didn't know what came over him. But he said it. Demon, he shouted. You demon. You broke the third's law, Naruto stated, undoing the cloth punishable by death. Hate Anbu dressed Yugao called. Don't look into his eyes. Too late. Shin no Ippu, stage 2. This stage was the one Naruto thought was the cruelest. In an average battle he wouldn't use it. Now he just didn't care, he wanted this fool to suffer. It literally froze a person's lungs with fear. Hate couldn't breathe. He was literally suffocating from fear. He fell to the ground gasping for the air his sick lungs were denied. He couldn't turn his terrified gaze from Naruto. It became obvious to everyone why Hate couldn't breathe. Naruto's henge ended and everyone saw what he really looked like. No longer was he the orange-wearing buffoon. Now he was a blood-red-wearing shinobi. It hurts, doesn't it? Naruto asked. To feel those diseased lungs of your being denied air. He spoke. To feel them burn with each passing second, begging for an end. He then lowered his voice one way or another. Everyone was shocked at what they saw. They couldn't believe the cruelty Naruto was showing. Naruto, please stop, Yugao begged. Her pleas fell on deaf ears as he watched him squirm. Asuma decided to step in and end it. Stand down, kid, he warned, or I'll have to take you down. Naruto wasn't listening. Look, I know how you feel, kid, but you can't do this to a fellow shinobi. You know how I feel? Naruto asked. You know nothing on how I feel, Naruto stated. I despise you both so intensely that I can't tell if my vision is blurry from my broken heart or my unforgiving rage. Everyone could feel both in his voice. Once I'm done with Hate, I will gut you with an honest Akami smile on my face. Let's just end this, Asuma stated. Naruto raised his sword so that it reflected his eyes. Shin no Ippu, stage 3. He felt the power begin to surge through him. No, Anko and Kurenai shouted. They needed to act if they were to save their men. String bean binding illusion. Kurenai used this to restrict his movements. Striking shadow snakes. Anko used this to separate Naruto from his sword. Dance of the Crescent Moon. Yugao split into 3 clones and performed the dance. There were 3 blades pointed to his vital areas by Yugao. They stopped short of piercing the skin. Times, he couldn't believe what was happening. Don't call us that, Yugao snapped. How could you do that? Anko asked. After you promised me. I'm so ashamed of you, Naruto, Kurenai stated. This was really happening. His Heims were turning on him for another man each. Naruto Hiruzen called in an empty tone. He is my son. They watched as the Naruto before them faded away. He reappeared in the balcony with a blank look on his face. Look at you two, Jounin wasted and gasping for air. He spoke to Asuma and Hade, but you don't go yet, when your very lives are broken around you. He lowered his voice. Then you have my permission to die, so for now stand. Hade and Asuma were finally regaining their breaths. I was a fool to think you 3 were any different in the end, he stated to his Heims. Once again Naruto faded out of existence. This time he didn't reappear in the room. You just had to teach him of all people the camouflage jutsu? Kakashi asked. We'll be lucky to ever find him. When Naruto didn't want to be found, he wouldn't be. All of his years living in the village made sure he learned to be stealthy. If possible, this would only make it harder. Hey, what's that? Ino asked, pointing to the arena. It was a scroll. It was obvious who left it. That was why no one wanted to open it, especially his former Heims. Hein Hiruzen stated. I'll open it. Shadow Clone Jutsu. What, don't any of you look at me like that, he ordered. This is Naruto. He wasn't really going near that thing. The clone opened it and revealed a letter. Dear Haim. I want you all to know how much I love you. I know that I don't deserve any of you, but I will do my best to make you happy. Without any of you I would be nothing. It is you four that keep me whole. You four keep me from giving in to my furry tenant. Without any of you, I would have no purpose. If I were to lose you, I would just give up. If any of you were to die, then I would die right alongside you. I would happily follow any of you to hell if it made you happy. There was a seal on the one designated to Anko. When she saw what was in it, her heart nearly stopped. It was the severed hand of the one she hated the most. It was the severed hand of Orochimaru. I know I couldn't beat him, but I will. I will free you from that curse he left you. Even if it costs me my life. The snake mistress was in tears. All of them were in tears. They had broken the hearts of someone who had loved them. Naruto, who had never known love, just stated that would happily die for any of them. Naruto never lied. P.S. If you aren't one of my Haims and are reading this, then, as a tribute to Anko. Dodge. The Hokage's clone was greeted to a face full of kunai. At the end of each kunai was a high-powered explosive note that detonated on contact. That was a little extreme, many thought. Good thing I used my clone the Hokage though. What have we done? They asked themselves. You've just done something, not even the villager could hear as in spoke. You just broke Naruto's spirit, something many thought impossible. What happens now? That's the main question, isn't it? Hiruzen asked, and what will he do now? That was the real question. Naruto was a Genjutsu genius. He had near limitless chakra and stamina to match. There was also the giant demon sealed in his stomach. Naruto was hurt. Nothing had ever hurt him this badly before. Not in his 13 years as a resident of Konoha. Not as a civilian and not as a shinobi. He had been beaten. Stabbed. Hunted. Starved. Burned. Suffocated. Crushed. Poisoned. He has been physically broken in a year more times than he could count. These things he could handle easily. He could just laugh them off. They all healed after a good night's sleep. But none of those things could compare to the pain he was feeling. The pain in his heart. The ones he had cared for among all others had betrayed him. They had led him on. Given him the hope that he could have happiness. Yeah, right. He wanted to get to his land. He couldn't focus enough to just shunshin there. So he was walking through the village hoping that he could get there before he lost control. Unfortunately, he didn't have his henge on. He wasn't going to wear it any longer. He was tired of hiding. This didn't go unnoticed by the civilian populace. Hey, is that the demon brat? I think it is. It looks like he decided to show his true colors. Maybe we should teach him a lesson. Naruto had enough of this. He wouldn't be pushed around by the likes of these weaklings. He turned to the one speaking. Well, go ahead, Naruto stated. Try and punish the demon. Brave drew his sword, but he'll fight you back. The civilians eyed him worriedly. Normally Naruto would just ignore them or give them a little scare. Not this time. We aren't afraid of you, demon, one of the braver civilians shouted. Naruto began to chuckle. It was an empty and hollow sound. The way he felt on the inside. Yes, you are, I can smell it on you, Naruto spoke, taking a big and a whiff. Because you're nothing but weak civilians, he smiled darkly. I already had enough skill to kill you all. Before I even graduated. He raised his voice. Now come on, who wants to be the first? None of the civilians made a move. They couldn't even look at him. They were all terrified of what was standing before them. It wasn't the boy they've tried to break and kill countless times. It was someone who would break them. Naruto turned to leave. He wasn't going to let them see him when he lost control. While his back was turned, one of the braver and more foolish civilians decided to act. He grabbed a large rock that sat by his leg. With great aim he tossed it to the back of Naruto's head. The rock made contact and fell off. Thanks to all of the abuse he could barely feel it. Not that he would have, it was a welcome change to the pain in his heart. Naruto turned and glared at his attacker. So one of you cowards has a bit of courage, huh? He asked. I'll have to fix that. You're worse, the civilian spoke. I am a proud citizen of the village hidden in the leaves. It seems that you have leaf envy. Naruto stated cruelly. Do you know what has leaves? Trees, he answered. Yes, trees, he answered. How about it? Do you want to be a tree? He lowered his blindfold and glared the civilian in the eyes. Do you want to feel your bones become brittle like wood? He asked. To feel your very blood turn to sap. Naruto glared into the man's eyes and his eyes began to glow with hatred. The man felt himself become stiff. His skin became tough with bark and his bones felt as brittle as the branch on a tree. The very blood in his body became thick and slowed as if trapped in his small veins. The civilian felt as his mind began to fade. That would have been too easy and too light of a punishment. Naruto halted the process to study his work. He would allow the man to keep his mind. That way he would endure all of the punishment. The unnamed civilian was stuck in his pose. Over half of the civilian's body was wood. His eyes were looking around wildly for any kind of help. help that he wouldn't be getting from the other civilians. They didn't want to share his fate. Time to finish this. He stood back and opened his coat. A mass of blurs began to jump from its depths. The sky began to fill with dozens upon dozens of birds. Woodpeckers. They made their way to the man tree. They flew onto him and began pecking, digging their powerful beaks into various parts of his wooden hide. He couldn't scream as they began removing his eyes from his head. He could only endure as they broke into him and began making a nest in his body. But he wouldn't die. The woodpeckers glared at the remaining civilians, daring one of them to come forward. Naruto had left the minute the woodpeckers arrived. He was finally at his destination, his home. He finally lost control. His tears began to fall down his cheeks fast. There was no longer any way he could hold them back. He wouldn't have any way, not here. This was his place of peace. Surrounded by his family. The foxes didn't know what was wrong with Naruto. They just knew that he was hurt and need comforting. Thanks guys, he spoke, earning a growl, and girls, this earned a yip. I knew I could always count on you all. He could. Hospital. Naruto was sure that the Chunin exams were over. He no longer felt chakra being tossed around from the tower. He did feel a few of his friends end up in the hospital. He decided to check on them. Unfortunately, the doctors and receptionist were being difficult. Just tell me where Rock Lee is, Naruto shouted. Usually he wouldn't need to ask. Unfortunately, Lee was a special case. Without any chakra, Naruto couldn't tell if he was going to find Lee or enter an empty room. He was tempted to use his clones to find the room for him. He's resting and doesn't need company from your kind, she hissed, so leave before I call Anbu to escort you out. Do you have tree envy? Naruto asked. The receptionist paled. Many had heard about what had happened in the village earlier that day and didn't want the same. She didn't believe it at first, but now. Naruto, stop harassing the receptionist, a lazy voice spoke, you're making a lot of noise. Kakashi, who am I up again in the finales? Naruto asked. And what makes you think you passed? Kakashi asked, amused eyes still in his book. Because I beat Kiba, understatement of the year. Naruto thought I thrashed him. You're fighting Niji Hyuga in the first round. Alright, Kakashi. I know what you're going to say, Kakashi interrupted, but I won't be able to train you for the finale. I wasn't going to ask for training, not from you, Naruto growled. I just want Lee's room number, since he pointed to the receptionist, is giving me a hard time. Naruto turned to leave. Wait, Naruto, Kakashi called, Sasuke is up against Gaara. And? Naruto didn't care about the Uchiha. So I need some things from you, he continued, your sword and any other dances you've made, they'll be the surprised since they're original. What? Naruto growled, you actually expect me to hand over my weapon and hard work? Don't worry, Kakashi spoke, you'll get the sword back, Sasuke just needs it to cast a few illusions until he wins. And what about me? I can't wait to hear this. What do I do while you're training the Uchiha? Well, since you're up against Niji, you should quit. What? Well, without your sword you have no Genjutsu, Kakashi reasoned, not that they would work against a Hyuga. No, Naruto answered evenly, those Genjutsu are mine, not the sword, he explained. As for the dances, forget it. I spent countless nights training those skills, I'm not just going to hand them over. Fine, if you want to be difficult, he spoke, as your superior I order you to hand them over. The room went deathly cold. The sudden change caused Kakashi to look away from his book. He saw the source of the change. A pissed Naruto Uzumaki. Listen to me, hot Aki, Naruto whispered, if you ever try something like this again, well, here's a sample. Fox glare. Kakashi was in a small and nearly empty room. All that he could see was his sensei, his former team, and a copy of his favorite book next to a kunai. Hello, Kakashi, they spoke as one. Sensei, don't speak, they snapped, it's time for you punishment. Punishment, he though, what do they mean? What's happening, he asked. We are going to read a copy of your book to you, they answered. How is that punishment? It's the yaoi version, they answered, and the only way out is to kill yourself. That's, he didn't know what that was. If you do it, then you gain our respect and our forgiveness, they spoke, but you'll be shamed like your father as a coward. And if I don't? We kill Sasuke and leave Sakura to you. They picked up the book, you have until we reach the end to decide. Real world. Everyone who saw what had happened couldn't believe it. 1 minute Naruto was talking to Kakashi, the next, Kakashi passed out. Many senseis, who were here to check up on their students, saw the whole thing. Even his former Heims had saw the ordeal but were too afraid to step in. The shock only increased as he gave a cruel but hollow laugh. I will come back to check on my friends, he spoke coldly. Tell the others what you saw, he leaned and whispered, or I'll come for you, do you hear me? He asked. I'm talking pain, razor blades and lemon juice. The receptionist nodded frantically. Naruto vanished in a shunshin. In Yuzuka compound. Naruto felt like kicking himself. He had actually forgotten about Hana during the ordeal. She was the only one, not in any of those pictures he saw. He decided to sneak around to her window. It would be unlikely if most of the clan didn't hate him more for hurting Kiba. Hana, he called Inuheim. Her window opened and he humped right to it, never entering. He looked to his Inuheim and saw that she was upset. So did the triplets who hung around her feet. It didn't take a genius to figure out what had her angry. Why? She asked through tears. Why did you do it? Do what? Please don't mean. Don't play dumb, she shouted, getting the triplets riled further. Why did you hurt Kiba so badly? It was a match and I lost control, he admitted, but I. No, I don't want to hear it, she stated. You're nothing but a monster. 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 No, Haim, he begged, don't say that. She was his last time. The last person important to him. Get out, she ordered. When he didn't, she put on the claw he got for her. I said leave. Haim, he took a step in toward her. Don't touch me, she screamed. In her anger, she lashed one of the claws out toward him. The blades cut him deep across the neck, drawing a mass of blood. The triplet saw this as a signal and attacked Naruto. One bit into an arm and one into a leg. The last one tackled him, causing all four of them to fall out of the window. Haim. It was the last thing he gurgled before he dispersed into a column of black petals. The look of betrayal would be forever burned into Hana's mind. Naruto, she cried, I'm sorry. But it was too late. He was gone. Home. That was it, he was done. He had nothing left. He had no Haims, and he definitely had no love for the village. So you are just giving up? Don't worry, I'll still free you. That's not what I asked. What else is there for me? I have nothing left. What did you have before meeting them? Nothing but my fox family. Exactly, it's just like starting over. Starting over? Yes, starting over without restraint. Restraint. Yes, no more of your Haims holding you back. Holding me back? What are you, a parrot? The parrot, he couldn't resist. The point is, you won't have to keep yourself restrained for them, relying on simple parlor tricks. The fox growled. Remember what happened in the forest? How could I forget? The only reason I started helping again was because you found your resolve. We went over this already, QB. Yes, we did, and when you gave in, but only partially. Hardy, don't you start that again, QB snapped. Sorry. You were so focused on saving Anko that you still held yourself back. I am sorry. I can make you a stronger, better you, not held back by your emotions for them, the fox whispered, but for me to do that, you have to let go. Maybe I was a little hard on Kakashi. Naruto was training as hard as he could. Why? Because he finally had the free moment. He had a little less than a month until the Chunin exam finals. His first match was with Niji Hyuga. He wasn't worried, in fact he was looking forward to putting that Hyuga in his place. The only real competition he had was Gaara. The rest were just there. That didn't mean he would take them lightly. He would give it his all in every fight. Unfortunately, he couldn't train as often as he would have liked. Why? The problem was with the Uchiha and Hatake. Naruto often sensed them around trying to take his techniques. He tried going to the Hokage, but it wasn't enough. Without actual evidence, it would be his word against theirs. Even the Hokage couldn't punish people without evidence. So Naruto decided to do things his way. That included using his foxes as guards. They may not be very numerous, but they were very skilled guards. They, however, weren't his only problem. He sensed two more strangers watching him. Samui. Samui was one of the, if not the most attractive woman in Kumo. She was both a fear and respected kunoichi. Her business-like personality and skill had saw to that. When given a mission, she went through with it without question. Even one such as this. Engage Naruto Uzumaki aka the Mirage Fox and see if the rumors are true. If they are, then seduce and become impregnated with his child. If not, then if possible, obtain sword and return to Kumo. Naruto Uzumaki, recent graduate and former dope of his class. Fought Zabuza Mamachi twice and caused the slaughtered near 200 bandits. Turned Mamachi into a Konoha shinobi and liberated Wave Country. Severed the hand of Orochimaru of the Sannin and forced him to flee. Konoha really needed to keep an eye on their secrets. That kind of information draw attention. You never know when there might be a spy listening in. Now if only she could find him. Naruto. Naruto was tired of hiding from the strangers. He would meet one of them head on and he would do it at his land. It's better to have the advantage of home turf in case things got messy. Now all he had to do was sit back and wait for the arrival. Home. I'm looking for Naruto Uzumaki, she spoke. Are you him? I am, he answered evenly, and this is private property. Samui was impressed. Most of the time men would be staring at her chest or turn into stuttering. Not Naruto, he was relaxed but also guarded. Must be the blindfolds. I am Samui, Jounin of Kumo. I hear that you are pretty good with a sword, she spoke. I wish to test that. Fine, he spoke, it would be good training. As he drew his sword, she stopped him. I would like for you to use this sword. She handed him a well-forged katana, if that's okay. So that's your game, he thought. Find out if it is the sword or me. Fine. I have to end this as quickly as possible. Naruto wasn't foolish enough to think he could beat a jounin in a head-on fight. Even with his trickery he was highly outmatched. Begin. She charged him with speed worthy of her rank. As she entered striking distance she did so without hesitation. Invert. Samui was shocked, Naruto floated behind her, upside down. He had his sword pointed to her back ready to strike. She knew he had a clear shot to at least one lethal area. As you can see the skill is mine own, he stated, shocking her even further. Not the sword. I see, she whispered. What gave me away? The minute you stated who you were and where you were from, he answered. Why else would a foreign jounin be interested in me? I was careless. Now what do you really want? He asked. Be honest. I'm a censor, he explained. If I find that you're lying, then this sword goes in. Samui mentally cursed. Censors were a pain to deal with in the shinobi world. You couldn't lie to one of them, and you definitely couldn't hide from one. I was ordered to seduce and bear your child, she answered. I see. Let's begin. She began undressing. Oh wait, stop, he shouted, dropping the Genjutsu. Samui paused and looked around. Is this area not satisfactory? No, it's not that, she cut him off. Am I not satisfactory? No, you very beautiful. He paused, thinking of what to say next. Samui couldn't contain her blush. Back in Kumo she has been called both hot and sexy but never beautiful. She had to admit it was a nice change. I don't get it, why was he turning her down? Most men would have jumped at the chance for her. Maybe. I have a brother. If she stopped when she saw him shudder. Never mind. You're very attractive, he stated. I just don't like being used. I see. She was surprised by the amount of hate in his voice. What should I do now? What could she do? If she left now then she would be a laughingstock in Kumo. A kunoichi that couldn't even seduce a teenage boy. Losing to him was no problem, he's proven to have real skill, but not being able to seduce him. Samui felt like laughing at herself. It would be easier to think if her back wasn't killing her. She couldn't keep in the groans of ache out of her voice. Why was I cursed with such a large chest? It was a question she asked herself often. Are you okay? He asked. My back is killing me, she admitted. I'm not surprised, he admitted. With a chest like that who wouldn't be? Yeah, well so he's like the rest, eyeing my chest. Want a massage? He asked, earning a glare. I've been told that I'm good at them. Fine, she answered after some though. If he tried anything then it could help her complete her seduction mission. He took his jacket off and laid it on the ground. She removed her shirt, with Naruto looking away, and laid on it. Once he began she felt as if she were in heaven. She would let out a moan of pleasure near constantly if he needed her back. You're good, she admitted. What kind of oil are you using? No oil, he stated. My blood. Please explain, she spoke, tensing under his palms. My blood had healing properties. He didn't elaborate any further. That's cool. She began to relax under his kneading hands. It wasn't long before she began to feel drowsy. After a while longer she fell asleep under Naruto's working hands. Naruto was very surprised of the Kumo jounin. For a foreign shinobi, jounin no less, to fall asleep in another's hands, her back must have been aching her for a while. Such a vulnerable state left them as easy targets for anyone. As she slept Naruto heard a wonderful sound. It was a gentle music that called him for him to follow. He did so. Who am I to deny music? Once he reached the source he was on guard. The music came from a woman playing a flute. That wasn't why he was on guard, no, he was on guard for two other reasons. The first reason he was on guard was because she was the second stranger following him. The second, the music she was playing was laced with Genjutsu. Hayuya. Hayuya was a feared kunoichi of sound. Her Genjutsu had, and skills has made her one of the Sound 4, Orochimaru's personal guards. She had been given a mission by Orochimaru himself. Seduce Naruto and bear his child or face punishment. Failure for Orochimaru was not taken lightly. Unlike most who thought it was the sword, he knew Naruto's ability came from another source, the QB. Hello, Naruto greeted. This is private property. I'm sorry, the Redeed spoke. I just wanted a peaceful place to play. Well, if it's okay, he asked. He liked her music. Can I hear some more? You dumbass, she thought. Now I can seduce this shithead and get knocked up. Not looking forward to these 9 months. Well, Orochimaru said he had plenty of stamina so it shouldn't be too bad. She began to play her most alluring music. Under the tune was a lightly laced seduction Genjutsu. As the moments passed she noticed no change in the blonde, he just stood there calmly. She decided to subtly add a little more chakra to the song as she played. Nothing. What's wrong with this shithead? He should be a mindless, her thoughts were cut short as the song ended. That was amazing, he complimented. Now tell me who you are, and what you, he ordered. I want the truth or your head comes off. She felt 2 sharp blades press against her neck. Looking around she saw 2 solid clones with their weapons drawn on her. When the fuck did he make those? Isn't it obvious, Uzumaki? A familiar asked. She's here for the same reason as me. Hello, Samui, Naruto greeted. I see you enjoyed your nap. Who the hell is Melon Tits over there? Tayuya asked herself. Yes, I slept very well. Samui stated. I was surprised to find that I was. She paused. Untouched, unchained. Naruto offered. All of the above, she admitted. I told you that I was only going to. Hey shithead, I'm still here, Tayuya shouted, and who the hell is Melon Tits over there? Why did she say I was here for the same reason? Just as I stated, Samui answered, ignoring the name. You're here to seduce Naruto Uzumaki, right? What if I am? She challenged. The clones pressed their blades closer to her neck. Then you should give up, Naruto answered. As I stated to Samui-chan here, that earned a blush from said Chan. I don't like to be used. Well listen shithead, she ordered. I don't want to fail my leader, so drop your pants. No. Hey, Melon Tits, what do you say to a team up? Tayuya called. He can't stop both of us and we get what we want. Well, she seemed to be thinking it over. Maybe you two would like to hear my proposition, Naruto stated. I'm sure both sides would be happy. Samui and Tayuya shared a look before nodding. We're listening. Naruto reached into his coat and pulled out 2 scrolls. Ones he had prepared in advance for this very occasion. They tried to open it, but he stopped them, didn't want people to know. I want you to hand this to your leader, Naruto stated to Samui. If they agree, then I want you to personally return to me. He looked at Tayuya. This one is for you. You have these already, shithead? Tayuya asked in disbelief. How? I knew you two have been watching me for a while, he answered. You shouldn't try to sneak up on a censor. They mentally, Samui did at least, cursed. Of course you don't sneak up when a censor is involved. They were trackers, it's what they're made for. Fine, Samui agreed. I'll have the answer, as soon as possible. Same here shithead, Tayuya answered. They both left. If this kid was as good as they say, then he was offering something good. Hot springs. Naruto had sent the Kunoichi off a few days ago. He was expecting their leader's response pretty soon. With what they're being offered, I expect an answer soon. After a hard day's training, he decided to relax. There was no reason he should overwork himself, plus he earned this time off. Now if only someone would stop that perverted giggling. Wait a sec, that's coming from the female side. With great skill and grace, Naruto jumped out of the water. He made his way to the female side and followed the unfamiliar chakra. What he found was an old man staring through a hole. Hey pervert, stop peeking on those women. As the words left his mouth, it entered the man's ears. The man stood and looked at Naruto as if insulted. Did you just call me a pervert? He asked. Yes. I am no mere pervert, he stated. I am Jiraiya. Naruto's mind began to fade as some crazy intro went on, and I am a super pervert. Thank you, Naruto stated. Oh, have you read my book? Jiraiya asked. Are you thanking me for its wonderful details? No, Naruto answered. I'm thanking you for digging yourself into a grave. He undid his blindfold, but for your honesty I'll reward you. Jiraiya made the mistake of looking Naruto in the eye. Naruto motioned for Jiraiya to turn around. The Toad-san did and was greeted by a gracious sight. It was a horde of beautiful women dressed in nothing but towels. They were making their way to him with a certain sway in their hips. Jiraiya-sama, they called. We love you, do you love us? Yes, he screamed. I love all of you, would any of why? They silenced him by putting a finger to his lip. Have you heard of tough love? One asked. What's that? The one who silenced him earlier answered. By headbutting him in the nose, there wasn't much force in it, just the surprise of attractive women headbutting him. Then it happened, their beautiful faces were gone. In their place were horrible reptilian-like scales and blank, pus-filled eye sockets. As soon as he saw it, they vanished, as if they were never there. One of the women punched in the face. This blow had force behind it, it knocked the Sannin to the ground. Hi? He asked. Sometimes love hurts, Jiraiya-sama, they answered, and we love you a lot. They all began to grab weapons from nowhere and hold them menacingly. But Jiraiya was cut off by a blow to the head. The women continued to beat the Sannin with the skill and strength of a pack of Kunoichi. He begged for mercy, but there was none for him. You have left me no choice, Jiraiya shouted. Summoning jutsu. Under him a giant toad appeared. It wasn't too large, around the size of a large human. The frog won't save you from our love, Jiraiya-sama, they purred. Frog, the toad shouted in indignation. I'll show you a frog. The toad gave them a mighty blow with a water jutsu. The blast was enough for them to begin to dissolve as if they were melting. Such a waste, Jiraiya whispered as he dispelled the toad. They were such inspirations. We forgive you, a feminine voice spoke. Jiraiya looked and saw the women as they began to reform. Their melted skin began to smoke and bubble. In mere seconds there became living flames. That's a new meaning to the word hot. How? He asked. We forgive you, because we love you, they answered, and we love you to death. They each tackled the Sannin as one. With the unbalanced weight and fear of burning to death, the Sannin fell over. He fell into the water of the empty hot spring, hoping to douse the flames. The water merely caught a flame as well. Naruto watched as he burned. Save me, he begged. Why? Naruto asked. Hello Naruto, my Kami Haku couldn't believe the sight. Bet you forgot her. Hello Haku-chan, Naruto greeted. Where have you been? We have to help him, she prepared to freeze the water. No, Naruto shouted, let him cook. Why? She asked, afraid of the answer. Because I'm have frog legs for dinner. Answer. Irikage-sama wants to know if you can honestly pull your end off, Samui stated. Same with me, shithead, Tayuya stated. I can, but only if they agree, Naruto spoke. Then it's a deal, Samui answered. You'd better not be lying, Uzumaki, I put my word in for you. Let's us begin, Naruto stated. Begin what? Samui asked. You've lost your chance for a piece of ass, Tayuya stated. No, Naruto waved her off. My training. Training? Why the hell would we train you? Tayuya asked. Well, I need to win to hold up my end of the bargain, don't I? Naruto asked. Since this is a way around your failed seduction, they flinched at the shame. You two need to ensure that I win. That answers her, Tayuya stated. Why would I train you? So that you can brag about it, he tried. He had no real reason for Tayuya. I bet you think you're so damn clever, Tayuya growled. Don't you, shithead? Do we have a deal? He asked, still calm. Fine, Samui answered. Oh, what the hell, Tayuya spoke. I can torture you for a while. Don't you mean train? I know what I fucking said. Oh boy. Ifs. Naruto was enjoying a nice little break from training. At least until his senseis find him. I think those women are trying to kill me. Hello, Uzumaki-san, a new voice greeted. How are you? Naruto jumped away and drew his sword, on high alert. He looked to see a bandaged old man. Whoever he wasn't to be taken lightly. He was able to not only sneak up on Naruto, but get so close. As Naruto pulsed his sensor ability, he realized something. I still can't sense him, but I sense a dozen others. How had he missed that? Each were well hidden, and each were at least Jounin level with the chakra they had. Who are you? Naruto asked. What do you want? I have an offer for you, he stated. Your name, Naruto repeated. Danzo, he answered. I'm listening. I would like to train you, he stated, for the finals. What is the catch? There is almost always a catch. No catch at all, he answered. Even if Naruto couldn't sense him, which he still couldn't, he would have said no. He knew when he was being lied to, it's something that served him well over the years. No deal, there is always a catch, Naruto answered. Very well, let's say this meeting never happened. He placed a scroll on the floor. And this is insurance, I'm sure you'd enjoy it. He gave Naruto a calculating look. If you can use it. Danzo gave the ground a simple tap with his cane. The hidden shinobi were dispersing like roaches when the lights are turned on. After a moment they were gone, and so was Danzo. He had a clone check the scroll for traps. He may have been curious, but he was even more cautious. Living in Konoha had burned that into his memory. What he read was enough to interest QB. This will be the perfect payback for that thieving Ichiha. He was in a real good mood, only one thing could make it better. Hey shithead, we've been looking for you, Tayuya stated. Naruto wasn't surprised. Samui-sensei, Tayuya-sensei, he called. How would you two like to get some dinner with me, as a date? Chapter end. So how was the story? I hope you like it. And if you like it, share this story with your friends and like the video too. And don't forget to subscribe our channel for daily awesome fanfiction. Okay, it's time for me to go. Bye bye.